Nakamura had acquired Atari Japan in 1974. Why? Well, their Japanese division was struggling financially and needed a buyer. Even the general manager, Hideyuki Nakajima, a veteran of the Japan Art Paper Company, was trying to keep it afloat by using his own savings. But in the end, his own employees were making a mess of things. At this point, Atari, even in the US, was facing its own internal issues, which pushed them to sell their Japanese operations. The first company to offer their bid was Sega with a paltry $55,000. But then Nakamura made a counteroffer of $550,000 plus $250,000 a year, which is how they won the bid. The purchase allowed Masaya to distribute Atari's gains in exchange for a share of the profits. This gave Nakamura-san a new opportunity: the world of video entertainment. As the fact is, Japan is a pretty closed market. It's because of closed distribution. So, Nolan Bushnell got lucky, as Masaya was willing to break a little bit of tradition in order for them to make money with an American company. After the massive success of Pong, which led to Ramtek's clean sweep also in 1974, Atari, with Jobs and the Woz now part of the team, had a Pong clone that was beginning to take shape. Nolan Bushnell and Steve Bristow were working on a game that Japan would describe as Block Kazushi or Block Breaker in terms of a genre, using discrete logic instead of microprocessors to create it. The idea initially came out of wanting to turn Pong into a single-player experience, taking the inspiration of table tennis and switching it to a prison break. One of the concepts for this game interpreted the paddle as a mallet, bouncing a ball and chain into the bricks of a jail cell to break them apart, which the name Breakout seemed to be the most apropos name for the idea. If you recall, a certain computer was being created around this time too, out of the West Coast counterculture. But the game started development in 1975, along with Cyan Engineering, then released in arcades in North America first on May 13, 1976, on the verge of becoming a worldwide commercial success. That's when Nakamura heard the news, hearing the story of a little-known game by the name of Breakout, co-created by the Steves. Yes, those Steves. This happened to be the game that they had the pleasure of distributing, but Nolan, unfortunately, only sent 15 machines overseas.
This game, Breakout, was a wonderful game, and I gave a very high evaluation to the game. Namco, through Atari Japan, had the sales rights on the property in Japan, and we were doing quite well. All of a sudden, we encountered a great number of copies in the Japanese market. The game was called Orokuishi. It's literally the Japanese translation of Breakout, and we saw more copies, units of Orokuishi, than the original games that we were trying to distribute. It was to the detriment of our business.
That's when the Yakuza, aka the Japanese Mafia, got their hands on one of those units and reverse engineered them so quick that their counterfeits were flooding Japan. And Atari could not produce more machines fast enough to counteract the fake ones in the market. We knew exactly where the copies were being manufactured, and I instructed my staff to go to these factories for surveillance. They would watch from their car, then they would notice a car approaching from behind and another car coming from the front, making their car immobile. They would come out of their cars and make threats. These were the same people who had a clan that tried to take over Konami. Nakamura even sent his own son to negotiate with the Yakuza to no avail, as they were adamant to take over the arcade industry. He tried to get the help of Nolan, but he was too soused with booze to do anything. So without authorization, what does Nakamura do? He beats the Yakuza at their own game by reverse engineering the game himself with his own people and reflooding the market with real local machines and getting the upper hand. This meant Atari's own game was, in a sense, their first creation for the arcades, which gave Nakamura Seisakusho in Japan another breakout success. Because of having the partnership with Atari, they were able to release their next hit electromechanical game, F1, in October of 1976. F1 was designed by company engineer Sho Osuji, intending to make a smaller version of Formula X that he made earlier, this time for smaller stores and entertainment centers. He cited that Kansai Seiki Seisakusho's Indy 500 was an inspiration for this game, likely because of Nakamura's strong business relationship with Kansai. Prior to development, F1 was designed with a steering wheel to emulate the feeling of being in a Formula One racer, using a miniature diorama to illustrate the race along with moving plastic cars to represent the player's vehicle and opponents on a physical rotating track. They also utilized a projector system and some lighting tricks to complete the illusion of racing. Then in June of 1977, after a string of multiple accomplishments, Nakamura Seisakusho Company Limited rebranded into Namco. The design came from the newly hired artist Toshio Kai, whose knowledge of music, books, and design greatly influenced Nakamura and the company. In fact, the logo was inspired from the 1960 album Third Stream Music by Modern Jazz Quartet, whereas the red came from Nakamura because he appreciated the packaging of Brava's cosmetic products. This iconic logo had its debut on Crazy Buggy back in 1972. Their first game they developed after the rebranding was Shoot Away in 1977. That electromechanical light gun shooter arcade game by Kazunori Sawano and Sho Osuji that simulates the sport of skeet shooting. Like F1 before it, it used a projector system that projected images onto a panoramic backdrop that resembled an illustrated forest clearing. Using the cabinet's attached light guns built in the shape of shotguns, the player shoots at flying white dots that serve as the game's clay pigeons. In each round, there are 2 that must be shot down, and you only have 2 bullets to do it. You can also get bonus points by firing down the clay pigeons the moment they come in, or by blasting them both in a single shot. Naturally, Shoot Away became a critical and commercial triumph, lasting in the arcades until the 80s.